joining now. Here we go. I love it when this thing says rotate your phone.
I know, right? Should I rotate myself?
It's always so scary when he says rotate your phone.
The phone cannot move itself.
But it's quite interesting.
Somebody must have been waiting for us. Hi, Kayleen.
And we got Gabby.
Are you still in Florida? Gabby, hello.
Hi, Gabby. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Really
you, President Edmund. This is President Edmund. She's the president of HANA of Greater New York.
Oh, wonderful.
We were in Florida together yesterday. And she's still down there. But I had to fly back in. I had to be here for the MoJo, Johnny. I had to be here.
Thank you.
I couldn't disappoint Joe.
Oh my God.
I had to be here for Joe. Let me
It's
put on my
amazing.
glasses so I can read.
So thankful for that.
So I can read the screen today.
I know, right? Well, we just really want to kind of wait a few minutes, but really want to thank the folks that's joined us so far. And we're about to talk about an issue that's important to the folks here in the diaspora. Bonsoir tout le monde.
Bonsoir, Milan. Milan is a big fan of yours, Johnny.
Oh, Milan. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Graciela, thank you so much. Always there, always there. These are folks who, anytime I come on a live, they always come.
Wonderful.
Just to check me out, just to see what's going on.
Ouais, je pense qu'il y a un pile bail n'a parlé là qui parle important pour le monde qui a vécu ici dans la diaspora. Et parce que récemment, hi Manolia, how are you?
Manolia, hey sis.
Et récemment, j'ai eu un pile appel de monde qui regarde les shows, mais des amis tout, qui a réfléchi sur question haïtienne. Donc, je suis content que nous avons l'opportunité aujourd'hui pour nous faire parler sur diaspora. Donc, nous avons une temps pour faire parler sur ça.
Sérieusement, Johnny, je ne vais pas penser qu'il y a un monde qui est mieux placé pour parler de ça.
Ah, il faut mettre pression sur moi.
Absolument sur moi. Ce qui est encore pour mettre. Ce qui est encore pour mettre. Bon, écoute, à chaque fois, moi-même, dans le petit travail, petit temps que tu as fait dans l'engagement, chaque fois, je me mets bien là et tu vois qui est-ce que je vais avec qui est-ce que je travaille, side by side.
Il faut checker Bazou quand même. Il faut checker Bazou, mais.
Quel que soit l'agent, ça est, ou toujours là.
Problème, question qui gagne en Haïti, et on a besoin de haïtiens pour mettre tête ensemble pour aider à résoudre le problème, pour aider à comprendre le problème dans un premier temps. Donc, c'est la première question qui j'aimerais vraiment réfléchir sur ça. Et donc, c'est sur ça que nous allons parler aujourd'hui, pour nous qui nous réfléchir ensemble, qui nous avons un plan d'action ensemble. So, it's really good. It's really good.
Je vais parler de comprendre le problème.
Natasha.
Natasha Tuyaje. Wow, my sister from Massachusetts.
Marijo là.
Marijo. That's another big
I know. We need to see each other. I don't know where Marijo is these days. Peut-être tu contrôles Marijo.
Peut-être tu contrôles. Ah non, faut dégager pour rejoindre. Bon, Natasha même par contre s'il Porto Rico toujours, mais un petit moment où il doit là, on parle moi-même. Bon, Natasha puis mal toujours. Un petit moment là, on va monter de dans l'avion à l'autre bout du monde.
À l'autre bout du monde. Ah bon, c'est gros cause.
C'est du contrôle complètement.
Faut mettre un petit prénom, mesdames, parce que même c'est là, on va dire juste comme moi, il me fait fini. Donc c'est là que on a perdu dans le train, on voit un train pas marcher, il a fait construction, il a fait rénovation. Nous pas ça Haïti. Mais Fritzner Jean-Paul.
Hello Fritzner, thank you for joining us. Merci.
Thank you so much everybody for joining us. And again, the subject today is one that is close to our heart, one that all Haitians that I know, beaucoup de gens qui sont Haïtiens côté, même si sont Haïtiens bon, hier soir allé dans un événement que Haitian Cultural Exchange,
Haiti Cultural
Exchange, sorry, was doing, amazing, organization, and they had an amazing with Regine, and they were they had an amazing young woman just coming out, putting up her album. And I met a young woman, who actually lived in Harlem, because I saw her on a train. We took the same train going down, and her dad is Haitian. Her dad left Haiti at 8, and her mom is Puerto Rican, and so she's a Boricua.
Wow.
And she is, her dad had not wanted to care very much about Haiti, and on her own, she decided that she needed to learn about Haiti, and she started to take lessons in Creole.
Wow.
And so we were talking about, what really
propelled her to
absolutely. I mean, she was born and raised right there on 134th Street in Harlem. And she said it's really the story of Haiti is really something that pulls her, and wanting to know where she's from, wanting to know about her dad, and wanting to know more about Haiti. And so, of course, last night I spent a whole lot of time telling her about really the great things about Haiti. Beaucoup de gens rencontrent mon côté qui sont haïtiens qui parlent on l'amour.
Affaire de l'amour pour Haïti, Johnny, please don't get me started, Johnny. Speaking of l'amour pour Haïti, qui t'aime un petit peu sur l'amour pour équipe moi en Floride peut me quitter avec pleurs avec
sorry. I got her. Sorry.
On a ça frontière avec nous non. Wa tourner pita, wa pon vol qui pita et me voulais prendre gros coup de chapeau pour femme voyant ça qui design work ça qui sous moi là parce que hier soir c'est ça nous a célébré Queen Nancy du Fonds culturel. Nancy, hier soir, nous étions avec Nancy. Et bien, Johnny, sous tes arrivé l'autre bord, ou t'as ému pour façon, yo, bas respect à la culture haïtienne. Tout le monde qui rentre dedans, t'es avec tenue ça, style tenue ça, ouais, ce moment-là, tenue, le culturel. Bon, mes amis, c'était la soirée culturelle, c'est quand c'est l'anniversaire de naissance de la reine elle-même, Nancy Dumais. Ouais, c'était avec un pile et fracas, un pile. Vous comprenez, un esprit de fraternité qui est dedans, de la façon d'apprécier la culture haïtienne. Tout panneau, toute table de décoration, c'était purement culture haïtienne. Même les étrangers qui étaient venus, ils ont montré appréciation à la culture là. Et il faut pas capable d'avoir beaucoup de chapeau. Il faut voir ça qui. Quoique il quitte Haïti très longtemps, mais Timoun, le petit qu'il fait souterrain, il assuré que Timoun, non seulement il apprend à parler créole, Timoun il garde des cultures là, dans tout ça qu'il a fait, dans manger, dans la façon de habiller, dans la façon d'agir, il va jamais monter c'est haïtien.
Oui. C'est vraiment son on va que pas comprendre et dépend de mes pieds dans le pays ça. Ou pas qu'à sortir pour pas sortir avec un langue. Que c'est blanc, que c'est noir, que c'est espagnol, que c'est chinois. Comme s'ils sont. Et m'admettre que je passe dans un pays, je visite un pays, je ne sais pas que il y a un pile côté que Malais qui me fait Haïti, c'est vrai, mais comme si en termes de bon sentiment, l'eau, puis au toucher que ça, quel que soit le soutien, vous parlez. Et c'est un bail qui est extraordinaire.
Johnny, est-ce qu'on permet de partager l'émotion que j'éprouve à chaque fois avion atterri sous piste en Haïti avec moi?
Absolument.
Ouais, on fait le tour du monde, comme sur les 6 ans, pendant des années, on est chaque vacances, chaque été. Nous libres, et bien pendant des années, ça a été fait. Nous voyager avec des groupes, nous mener notre monde à visiter au paquet. Quel pays dans le monde, tout continent honnête, pour capable de dire, bon, vraiment là, nous chance qu'on fait ça. Mais quand à Haïti, à chaque fois, avion, il tombait sous piste là, on commence à verser des larmes.
C'est
comme si je me sentais tellement ému, je descends, je me tellement je me sentais la calme. It's like I'm back to my roots. I'm back to mom.
Yeah. Hi, Carrie. How are you? So we have Carrie that joined us as well. I think what we'll do is today we'll do a better job. We have Rose. Hi, Rose. It's been a long time.
Neighbor, yes.
Rose is your neighbor.
Yes, she is.
Really?
She's my neighbor. Yes.
Wait, it's the Rose I met, right? Is it the neighbor that was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you.
I met Rose, right?
Yes, you did meet Rose.
Belmont.
I just left Rose. Yes.
Belmont.
She just went to Haiti and got married. Congratulations.
I remember.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes, you did meet Rose.
Yes, I met Rose.
I got another Rose Noel. That's another longtime friend. We're about the same age.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Rose, for joining us.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So I think that the issue today that we're probably gonna we will spend most of the time talking about, just so that we can kind of get into the conversation rather quickly, came about out of two things. One is following up last week's live in which we talked about the census. And I think we should probably take a few minutes more
to touch base on that again.
To touch base once again about the importance of the census for this community, the necessity for us to go out there and participate in that. But really, out of that conversation, I got a lot of calling. I know you got some folks who talk to you as well about, well, how do we get involved, right? I mean, you were saying, Mona, how there's a lot of bad news coming from our beloved country. And
we can't deny it, John. You know, you and I were on a lot of platforms on HNN. We're with the magistrates, with the diaspora, a lot of diaspora groups that have been put together. We're part of all these groups, and anytime you go from one platform to another, what you're seeing is graphic pictures of people being shot, people being chopped, and it's like, how much of that can you get?
Yeah.
You know, people being kidnapped.
Yeah. We are once again going through a very difficult period, but you know, they do say once again, you know, they talk about how, you know, it's right after the darkness comes the light, and so I think we're going through once again another dark period. But that,
I'm sorry, Jenny, I gotta send some love to my sister watching from all the way from Montreal, Canada. Thank you so much for joining us, sis. Thank you so much. Samuel Thermitis.
Yes.
Our big fan, the biggest, our number one, Sam. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for joining us.
So we know that there are difficult times in Haiti right now, but I think, you know, like all Haitians, we tend to hold this optimistic view of being able to have an impact in Haiti. And the one conversation that actually touched me was one that I had with the brother of a very good friend of mine who called from Georgia, and he was very interested in, actually he's going to Haiti next week, and he wanted to make sure, he wanted to make sure that he and I had a conversation just so that he could really understand what's going on. And
speaking of understanding what's going on, Manolia just said, you know, it's dark before dawn.
Yes,
but
thank you.
How long, Manolia? How long? Is it at its darkest? Would you say that it's at its darkest now?
No, I would argue that it isn't. I would argue that it's not. And in fact, I've had to really, I'm going through a phase of trying to frame my 10 years in Haiti and putting it in a perspective of sort of a historical.
I think you just confirmed my statement from earlier when I said there's no one that is better.
There's some good people.
That can better make sense of what's happening, or
well, thank you.
Really put it together for us to understand.
There's a lot of good people, and we're gonna have them on the show.
And we have quite a few on this live as well.
Yes, we need to have a real sit down, and this is something that I'm very, very, very passionate about. I think we've had a lot of conferences, right? And we've never really had a conference where we've had a come to Jesus. And we must have a come to Jesus as a community. Because part of it is that until and unless we settle some things between ourselves, right? We can't help anybody else. I always think about, like, when you go on a flight, you know, when they give you that message and says, put your mask on first before you can help anybody else.
God, I've heard that message.
That is amazing. It's an amazing motto, right?
Yes, it is.
If you pass out, you can't help anybody else.
Indeed.
Right?
Just for clarity purposes, John, when you say come to Jesus, please explain that to our audience.
Well, I mean, I think as a diaspora, as a community, we've come, you know, we've left Haiti for different reasons, right? There was probably a wave of people that left Haiti for political reasons. There's another wave of people that left for economic reasons. There are others who just left because they wanted opportunities to study, and then they stayed. And whatever the reason one has, we bring to our, you know, new home some old habits.
Of course.
And I think in many ways, you know, like in all society, there's sort of like the kind of a separation that happens sometimes in terms of, you know, who's educated, less educated, who's come from this or that family, etc. And in a place that is as small as Haiti, that gets amplified a bit more, right? And so when you come here, you sort of kind of you move towards the people that kind of look like you, or that you went to school with, or that, you know, have the same family background.
Is it because we're clingish by nature? We're very cliquish. We tend to cling
that's
onto our
human
very
nature.
own. Okay.
That's human nature, and I think quite often we put more pressure on sort of the normative things, like things that are normal for other people. I mean, they say, "Oh, Haïtien comme ça. This is Haitian thing," and I'm like, "Wait,
the Haitian way,
right?" And I'm like, "But wait, I've been to all these other communities, and this thing that we call Haitian it's a human thing.
It's just like time, for example. Is it Haitian time?
Right, I know, right? Oh,
American time.
We do have Haitian time.
And meanwhile,
right.
in the Caribbean, a lot of our brothers and sisters from Jamaica or Trinidad, they practice the same. Even in Africa, for God's sake.
Go to Italy. What do you mean talking about? Go to Italy, go to Spain, go to Greece. Anyway, so it's not Haitian. But so to your question, I mean, I think the first part of your question is, I don't believe that it's the darkest. I think we probably have some darker times ahead of us. And I say this to say that I put it in the context of my 10 years is nothing but a comma in a space of time, right? And so when we think about Haiti, we think about a very young country, and a young country that has not had the opportunity to really evolve in the way that it needs to evolve. And so we're gonna have some darker times, but I think that Haiti holds I know Haiti holds a very special place amongst nations. And
undeniably so.
Despite our being so small, despite our being insignificant economically, we don't have an army, and yet you will see that when Haiti speaks, its voice is louder than its body, right? It's louder than what it really represents. So I think that you know, when we look at it over time, we're just getting started. However, I think that until and unless we decide collectively where we want to go.
How do we do that, Johnny? Please stop.
It's
Stop
the
for a
honest
minute.
conversation.
Johnny, please stop. And you know the challenge that we've had. You of all people know.
I do.
Now, to play devil's advocate, many have said, okay, would it take for all Haitians really to get together and do this? Not necessarily, because some of us, for one reason or another, will never, ever sit at the same table and work with each other. But will there ever come a time where we put our political differences aside? Whether we say PHTK, say Laval, Sasse, what is it about us?
Well, I'm going to leave Haiti to the side for now, right? Because we're going to say diaspora and Paris.
Okay.
So today we're going to focus on diaspora.
On diaspora,
right?
Okay.
We're going to focus on diaspora.
Yeah, but pour changer tout, c'est même diaspora ça, dans le temps diaspora ça, gagner des lignes de démarcation, gagner
Absolument, certainly.
Gagner séparation ça, gagner division ça à partir de croyances religieuses, à partir de, appartenance politique. Yeah.
I think part of it has to be, and this is where I said that we need to have a conversation, come to Jesus, because I think what's happened, and I've been part of, as you know, and you've been part of a lot of conversations where we try to be nice to each other, right? As opposed to kind of be brutally honest with one another about, this may not be for you, right? And that's fine. Or about saying that you bring this particular perspective and I bring this other perspective, but rather than looking at what divides us, what are the things that we have in common? and what are the shared objectives that we have?
What are the shared objectives? What are the things that we have in common that would allow us to conquer what we're actually after?
Absolutely. And I think very often, honestly, and this is something that I'll say honestly about organizations that we're part of now, we try to jump as a diaspora too fast, too soon. And this is why I wanted to make the point about time. We always feel like because it is so dark, right? Dawn must be close. And so we need to rush. And in rushing the process, we never allow it to fully kind of go through the different iterations and phases. You see what I'm saying? N'allez vite. We are now in an organization whose mission is to help Haitians in Haiti, Haitians and here in the diaspora. But the focus, in my opinion, and this is, respectfully what I always try to share, is how about we focus on the folks that are here? Because if we are here and we haven't put our mask on, how are we gonna put the mask on these other people that are down there?
Got it. I'm starting to get it. I'm getting that little blink of light. However, it's still a bit foggy. Foggy based on past experiences, foggy on the reality of us as a diaspora, foggy based on, some of the words on the street. How do we change the mindset? How do we get rid of that? How do we eradicate that? And I'm not making this up, Johnny. I'm not being pessimistic at all. Not at all. Far from being pessimistic. Because if I were to be pessimistic, trust me, I wouldn't even be having this conversation. I would not even partake in this conversation.
Absolutely.
And I think as we make selections of what topic we're going to talk about in the show, we discuss it. We both agree. Yes, indeed, that is a conversation worth having.
Absolutely.
Which is why we're having it. But at the same time, by the same token, let's not move away from the reality that we have a lot of challenges. And how do we overcome those challenges? Give me an example. Let's call spades.
Give me an example of what you're talking about.
Let's call spades.
Okay, let's have an honest conversation.
The example is right here next to you. It's not far. It's not far. Moi-même, je fais conversation avec vous, honnêtement, je fais avec un pile de amis. Et jusqu'à présent, c'est des collègues pour nous-mêmes, pour mesdames, pour Haitian Women for Haiti. I'm part of that Haitian Women group. Matter of fact, we're going to have a conference in May. The same conversation would have had. Still part of the dialogue with the United Front, but my thing is, I'm like, guys, I'm tired. I've wasted so much energy in this. I feel like we've gotten nowhere. I'm looking at brother like Mayor Bakanda, Mayor Champagne, who's monté des son back or, bringing other people to the table, to try to see, if we can make sense of what's happening.
Right.
Okay? And again, and this is a term that I've used over and over, but it is what it is, in my view, and I think if we really look at it deeply, we analyze it, c'est comme si what Major Bendit on gros play. And there's no relief. So who's the enemy? Are we shooting our own selves in the foot? What's the problem, John? Please help me make sense.
Well, I'm really trying to think deeply about the question that you're asking. I mean, again, I'm probably trying to make it much simplistic or simpler than it is. And I'm only doing so not because I don't believe that those issues are real, but I'm doing so because I think, again, I know that we've put in a lot of effort on things that not dealing with the internal challenges that we have, meaning that a lot of the Mayor Champagne bringing people down, you bringing people down, a lot of our friends who I talk, like I said, part of the reason why we wanted to have this conversation is people will call us because they want to bring people down.
Of course.
And people want to help, and they see I went down, right? And they see the opportunity, right? But again, my sense is that we've jumped way too soon. Haïti pas péri, you dis ça tout le temps. Haïti pas péri. And there's people who argue, countries have disappeared.
And I roll my eye.
And it's true, Haïti pas péri.
I roll my eye.
But the fact is that for the diaspora to play its rightful role, and I call it a rightful role because I absolutely believe that Haitians and Haitian Americans are 100% the same. Indeed, our founding fathers, they were quite clear about the fact that you are Haitians. If you were born on the land, or if one of your parents, mom or dad, you don't have to. If you were born here, my daughter who was born here is Haitian, and she is Haitian for life.
Cliente malheureuse dans le pays
The thing I'm trying to say is that the first thing we need to accept is to accept ourselves, because I think there's a challenge with, and I go through that, right? You kind of think about, wow, here I am, right? I have, great opportunities while I'm here.
Say it right.
Greater opportunities here in the United States, or in Canada, or in France, or Dominican Republic, wherever I am, right? And somehow, I feel a little bit of guilt of I'm not there, right? And so how do I deal with that kind of like I want to help, I want to bring help, but I'm not quite.
Please allow me to greet. Is that Kathleen Felix?
Oh, is Kathleen back in Canada?
No, Kathleen is still in Africa.
Oh my God! Well,
by the way, I gotta blame Kathleen. I gotta blame Kathleen with this diaspora engagement stuff.
Right?
Oh my God!
She's the one that brought us into.
She literally dragged my body into this. You know what? Speaking of Kathleen, we had an opportunity in trying to make sense of this diaspora engagement conversation. We've had conversation with the Muslim community, and Furman was also part of that dialogue in Washington, as we try to see what happens in other diaspora communities. What are their practices? What are some of the good practices that they have that maybe we could bring into our own community to make it better? You know how you want to model certain, behaviors or practices that others are doing, maybe that would work for you. But it seems like everything we've tried, everything we've taken from those workshops, from those conferences, and try to bring within our own community, no matter how easy it seems, and it's like mission impossible.
That's exactly the problem, and you said it without realizing it. So we go out, and I've done all the research. I've researched Ireland, Israel, Jamaica, Ethiopia, Rwanda, anyway, Nigeria. I've looked at so many different places, right? So many places with diasporas who've been influential, right? I mean, the Irish diaspora was extremely influential, both good and bad, in this war that was happening in Ireland, between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, right? So we go and we take best practices, and those are just mechanisms, those are processes, and you can apply these processes, and normally they should work. But before you get into the process, there is some internal evaluation. There is some demons, to be honest, that we need to deal with amongst ourselves.
Okay, now stop for a minute, Johnny. Whatever you just said here requires something that you've been preaching about, which is leadership. Where is that coming from?
The leadership is there. So you know, I've been working in the leadership space, right? And I think, you know, and again, we tend to look at leaders in particular ways, and it's not just the Haitian thing. I think, you know, human beings, if you go places, we look at leaders that has the kind of presence, who's able, that people are attracted to, right? That can bring people. And we kind of we don't give the same, we don't put at the same level the leaders that are able to kind of guide. Well, when it comes to that, there are people who can actually say, let's go, they look good, and you think they know what they're doing when they don't. And then you have people amongst that group who may not have that presence, but who has the competence and the knowledge. But
so then how do you put all of that together? How do you bring all of that around the table?
We need
and make it work for the better good of the country.
We need to have that conversation. We need to have that come to Jesus. So we need to come to the table and say, let's talk about who are we? Where are we? Right? It's all of who, what, where, when, how, all that good stuff that they do in journalism that, you know, Manolia is best to actually tell us about this.
Manolia should be on the show.
Who, what, where, when, how.
She just sent a comment. I don't know what she's saying. You might want to check that out.
She says that many of us are stuck in the persona or the performance of leadership. Right? People who look good as leaders, but are not necessarily, and we know.
So they don't fit the criteria. They're not meeting the rubric. But there is a rubric.
Yes, but who set the rubrics? We need to set the rubrics. What are we looking for in a leader?
Okay, here's another problem, Johnny. There's a generational gap, and I'm quite sure you are aware of it. We cannot deny it. Now, we have our baby boomer leaders that you and I have been working with, a lot of them, and you know what some of the issues are. They have egos. They don't have much respect for those of us from the younger generation. Okay? Yeah, sometimes for technological reasons, you know, certain things that requires technicalities, they'll use us. But at the end of the day, they want to be the supreme, the ultimate, I'm it.
Right.
Follow me or else.
Right. And yes, we have those. And it's a difficult, and this is where I said we need to be honest with each other. We need to be able to say, with all due respect, and we need to be able to say, I love you, but you're not going to be the leader of this.
You need to sit down. It's time to.
You're not going to be the leader of this, right? And
because times have changed.
Times have changed. Now, within the context, our social context, we need to do this with love, and you know,
and respect.
And respect. I mean, I've had experience with a couple that have personally really. I mean, there were people that I really looked up to who let me down, and but in the interim, what we were trying to do, I tried to do, and one of those things was to say, this person has committed so much of their lives. We need to recognize the effort that they've put in. And we need to say, you've worked hard, and the fight has taken on a different phase. It's time for you to rest, and maybe to help be a voice of reasons, someone who can tell us about, you know, what has happened in the past. Because this is, I consider myself. I mean, not to talk about leadership and myself in the same faith, but I consider myself a bridger. Son pommier, right? I firmly believe, and this is my thing about like life in general, not just Haiti, but like even here in the United States, I'm a Star Trek fan. And if we could do the mind meld, you know what the mind meld is, right? Okay, if you could, and you know why the mind meld is important? The ability of the previous generation to pass on their knowledge,
that legacy,
to the next generation.
That legacy.
That is what made the Vulcans so powerful,
legacy,
right? Because they were able to actually transfer everything that they've learned. So, you know, like you put your hands on the fire, every generation puts their hands on the fire because they want to, is it really hot? But with the mind meld, you don't need to put your hands on the fire because when the generation before actually melded their experiences with yours, you felt the burn. So been there, done that. And so I truly believe that we need to make sure that we recognize the experiences of those that came before us because they've been through some stuff that we can take from it. But then what they've experienced is not what we're living today.
It's a different era.
You know, and what we experience today is not what the next generation is going to experience. So we need to take a pause. Let's not rush to Haiti. Let's not, go do X, Y, and Z.
So speaking of let's not rush to Haiti, so let's stop for a minute. I recall vividly, after the earthquake, we had a slew of young people, young professionals, who rushed to Haiti, to the rescue, out of love. Some of them were actually born on the ground, some were born here, but they rushed back to Haiti. They moved back permanently, tried to establish business. Of course, they responded to the call. Haiti's open for business, and they felt compelled to go back and help restore the country, bring it back to its original, which of course we're still waiting for.
Yeah.
But what do you say to that generation, Johnny, that is now walking away, moving back here slowly with disappointment as things are going haywire now?
Well, the first thing is disappointment is part of life. What would I say to this young person if they came to me and said, I just applied for this dream job that I knew that I was perfectly capable of doing and I didn't get it, or I just lost this dream job, or I just broke up with this person that I thought was going to be my life partner, or you don't stop living, do you?
I actually didn't.
So,
but no, it's all good. It's all good. Life goes on.
Life goes on. But we never give up on love.
Absolutely.
We never give up going after our dreams in terms of our career. So, what would it be any different about Haiti?
Okay.
And when we have these setbacks, what do? And it's in the word, we step back a little bit. We reassess, right? 10 years, right? I just spent 10 years, and I am in the midst of.
I don't know how you did it, but
I'm in the midst. But you know what? Here's the thing. I think it made me a better person. I think those 10 years in Haiti allowed me to discover something deeper about our humanity.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely. Now, I have certain responsibilities that I need to take into account. But the step back is not a step out.
Okay. So, let me ask you this question now, Johnny. If we were, let's pretend we're sitting at a workshop and we're asked, because you know me, my educators, I'm an educator. My educator has it's always on.
The doctor's on.
So
it's on.
You're given chart paper. You're leading a conference. You're leading a workshop. You're given chart paper. If you were to decipher the problems, the challenges, the issues surrounding the reason why we're facing the challenges that we face as diaspora, how would you go down the list? What are the issues?
I don't know what the issues are. I can presume to know some of them.
So how would you lead the dialogue?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think I would probably, and I've talked to some colleagues in the space that I was working in who were involved in doing some work where there were conflicts. And they have methodologies, right, doctor? They have methodologies that help people who are in the midst of armed conflict to come to the table and figure out how to stop killing each other. I mean, we're talking about people who are in the middle of armed conflict. We're not there. So, my first step is actually to really have a well thought out conversation, a guided conversation.
Okay, I'm part of the conversation.
It's not a self-guided conversation.
Okay, I'm part of the conversation. I'm one of your workshop participants. So we're brainstorming around the issue. So now I throw one of the problems to you as leadership. And now here you are, the master of leadership himself. How do you respond to me as a participant?
I don't know if the issue is one of leadership, whereas it's really, I mean, leadership is one thing.
But the people are perishing in lack of leadership, Johnny.
Yeah, but
if there's no leadership,
but this is the thing. I mean,
who's leading the way? Who am I following?
You need to. Whenever someone throws something at me, I believe there's probably 4, 5, 6 layers more to whatever they ask me. So your first question is never the question to me. So if I was just simply taking the question of leadership, if you say leadership,
that is
automatically,
is it too broad?
It's not just. I mean, maybe it is. I'm not even gonna make a judgment on it. But I would say if I was doing the workshop, I would ask you. So when you say leadership, what's the problem about leadership? Then you would probably start explaining to me that there are people who are from different generations. So is it then a transgenerational challenge? So if it is, then what about the transgenerational issues that are at odds? Then some young person would enumerate, here's how we see things as young people, and some older person would say, here's how they see it, right? And so then we'll start going down and really get to the root, right, of what those things are. Because I think quite often what I've found is that we assume we know each other, right? We are all Haitians, and we assume that we know each other, when in fact, there are many different context that we come from. There are different issues that drive why we do the things that we do. I'm still trying to figure out, beyond loving Haiti, why am I driven about Haiti? What are the things? And I think when I really step back, if I were to go deeper and deeper, it is really about, for me, it is about injustice, but there's another layer. It's about my mom. It's about the injustice that I saw my mother experience. Right? And to this day, it brings tears to my eyes whenever I see Amanda Sarah, because my mother was Amanda Sarah, and she had an accident with me when she was 8 months old with me. She was buying rice, okay, and she was bringing rice back. Her and my aunt, she was coming back,
pregnant?
8 months pregnant with me.
Okay.
And the truck had an accident, and they thought she died. When she came out, they thought I was dead.
Oh wow!
And when I wasn't dead, they thought I would certainly come out, with issues. I may have some issues, but it's not for me.
No, you're fine. You're all right, Johnny.
But you know what I'm saying? And then I kind of think about how my grandfather, who was an educated man, made sure that my uncles went to university. They were all educated, and the women were not. And that is something that, for me, that kind of injustice, just because she was a woman, because my mother was like this amazing.
But that was the trend then. That was the trend back then.
Of course it is. Of course. But that doesn't negate the fact that as her son, that's the effect that it had on me. So when I come to a conversation,
makes you understand women. I think somebody's sending us some feedback here. You might want to pay attention to that. We don't want to our audience.
He's holding a singular bell. Please, I don't expect a dialogue nor an interview between the two of you. Rather, I am in dire expectation of you interviewing minds. Dialogue. Rather, I'm in dire expectation of you interviewing minds on Haiti, whereas the community at large will benefit from this karma. Please be at work on this regard. We probably pray. Okay. Thank you. All right.
We have taken your suggestions
Thank you.
constructively. Yes, indeed. We accept all suggestions.
Yeah, definitely.
All your contributions will be taken into consideration.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Please understand, this is a disclaimer of ours that we are not experts. Okay, we have not came across anybody from our circle that have claimed to be experts. However, we love having dialogues, and you're definitely welcome to share your views and your opinions respectfully on any of the matters at the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's what will make the conversation deeper, right? I mean, I think everybody has something to offer.
By all means, yes.
And everybody has a perspective, and everybody has a particular context.
Of course.
And mine is injustice, right? And I am.
Can we be more specific? Can it be injustice against women, since it was
it's
your
fun.
mother?
I mean,
it started with your mother.
It started with my mother, but it's the thing that's driven me about my life's work now, right? I mean, that's the thing, right? And so when I come, I sit at a table. That's what I bring. Mm-hmm. And
it's quite evident. It's quite evident.
But the point I'm making is, I didn't want to make it about me. The point I was making is that each of us come to the table, call it baggage, call it history, call it whatever it is, unless we are open, unless we are able to let others see our vulnerabilities and have this conversation, then we're not going to get to what do we agree on.
So I'm trying to visualize this, and here's what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing this starting as community engagement, and I'm seeing various leaders. Again, it all revolves around leadership somehow. Gathering people. For example, ou gen pasteur, ou gen père, moun sa yo se ou pa réaliser ki impact que moun sa yo gen sur la vie moun. Ou pa réaliser qui façon que yo capable motiver moun pour ça que yo ka décourager moun. Qui façon yo capable guider moun dans la bonne direction pour ça que yo gen doit mener dans direction pour ignorance pour. Ou d'accord avec moi?
D'accord.
Par exemple, je travaille en pile dans la campagne, même si on même toujours journée comme ça. Et moi, je rencontre un pile de monde qui protestant, qui dit, c'est pas parler mal, pas critiquer, mais qui dit, madame, pas dans la politique moi-même, c'est chrétien même pas dans la politique. Pendant ce temps, son devoir civique lié pour le citoyen pour le voter. Son devoir civique lié pour chercher qu'on est. Si le gros problème dans le district côté la ville là, à qui est-ce qu'on a ramené ces problèmes-là? Si le gros problème dans l'école petite, qui j'aime pour naviguer le système dans le pays la ville là. Voilà que on va essayer d'ouvrir mon nom, on va dire bon, mais quel candidat qui gagne, mais qui ça candidat côté, mais qui avantage à gagner pour nous-mêmes, mais ça ici dans zone là, c'est bon. Il dit à madame pas dans la politique. Qui côté la prendre ça la tia, il dit l'autre dit pas comprendre ça, côté on va avec ça. Oui, parce que tu dit pas de chrétien nous pas dans la politique. Ouais, voilà le problème de ce pays.
Bon, il y a un problème, je vais dire le problème. Comme le problème, c'est un problème.
Il y a un problème.
Non, mais c'est vrai. Ou bien raison, pas qu'à dire pour pas raison sur point ça, parce que nous tous les deux nous vivons mal fait et campagne en Floride. Et ou même bon ou parler de protestants même n'importe qui en pile témoin de Jéhovah pas compte de tout témoin de Jéhovah ça en Miami le m'a frappé dans porte et puis il fait parler avec eux ils disent que même il pas dans la politique il pas voter il pas dans bagaille comme ça et là bon, honnêtement je pas respecter et croyance mon respecter croyance je pas dire aller contre croyance. Ceci dit, soit parler de catholique, soit parler de protestant, moi-même, m'estimer que c'est une manière pour me faire bien. Et une manière que je devoir que je me tête, c'est retourner dans la Bible encore. Parce que, je me lever dans l'église, bon, me fait et dans l'église baptiste et toute vie et pas gagner compréhension ça. Donc le fait que me quitter l'église là, c'est peut-être bon manque parce que si tu as mon temps pour me quitter dans l'église là, tu es capable peut-être de une conversation par contre. Bon, ça fait tes fêtes.
L'autre passe.
Oui, donc nous étions quoi que coulier là. What I need to do is, and you'll see in my writings now going forward, I've started doing it. A lot of biblical references. It's not because I'm preaching, it's because I've recognized that faith plays an important role in the lives of many people. And the best way to engage in a conversation with someone who is someone of faith is from the same basis, right? It's not in opposition to their faith. It's in collaboration to their faith. And so I've been a believer in asking people, what would Jesus do? And I'm a Jesus follower. I am a Jesus follower because the thing that I want to do about injustice are the things that Jesus came to do. So we're on the same team. So if I come and talk to you, I'm not an enemy.
Okay.
Right? I'm not an enemy. We are working at this from the same perspective, which is a perspective of you having faith, me being a man who believes in Jesus. And let's talk about what would Jesus do? Would Jesus allow this suffering to happen? I may talk to someone and say, yes, we talk about the census. The census is important because it's every 10 years. And if you don't get counted, that means there will be fewer resources for your community.
Absolutely.
There are people who may not understand really what that means. But there may be another angle to get to it. Par exemple, on a dit que même pour pasteur, il va dire, attendez, si on n'a pas enregistré dans le census là, ça veut dire que dans le monde là, tu travailles hors et tu es conjoint là, LPN que tu es conjoint là, vous comprenez, tu travailles que tu es conjoint dans l'école côté des haïtiens, eh bien l'école ça y a fermé, là au fermé, qui s'est passé, vous savez pas du travail ça y a.
Absolument. C'est même genre mon programme ISL pour adultes, ouais. Et tout on n'a pas participé dans ce census là, comme ça je vois bien. Il a affecté tout le programme ça. Faut que qu'on baille annuellement pour programme oui j'ai réduit. Peut-être que ça craint il peut que mon yo gagne pour bailler information.
Absolument.
On côté là les défenses avocats John. Pas fin trop faire mon yo non. Parce que son manque d'éducation et c'est là nous nous rentrer.
C'est ça que exactement. J'ai apprécié ça tout
Education.
Que gain manque d'éducation et c'est ça que moi-même I'm back to let's put on our mask
first absolutely.
Let's not if we are a diaspora there is community work that needs to be done. First of all, it takes a long time and it's about trust. Trust is about time and it's about proximity, right? Fokula. Fokunyo well. Fokula. C'est la boula. C'est la boula.
Le slogan touriste en Haïti.
Donc, c'est pas parce qu'on pas protestant, si un événement qu'a fait qu'on pas supporter, ça qu'a fait dans l'église protestante. Fokula, faut well. Ou c'est moun yo. Donc, là, on vient parler avec yo. Yo pas comme moun k'ap vini comme si on espion. You're not coming to change who they are, right? It's a natural. And often you'll see that kind of divide between sort of the older generation and the younger generation because they are at odds and they're like, well, we just walk away versus let's figure this out.
Yeah, but how do you do this without incorporating religion into it? Because remember, we have a diversity of that's another thing that kind of divide communities as well. Parce que ça montre qu'il vaudouisa qu'on est là ou bien qui musulmans ou bien bon comme c'est n'a parlé dans le contexte haïtien on dit monde qui pas croire dans Jésus mais qu'on est l'envie avec on parle Jésus on parle et il parle de Jésus ça il keep on Jésus on parle pasteur c'est what do you say to that person
who's vaudouisant no mais first thing if I'm going to go talk to someone I need to know a little bit about who they are For me, conversation starts with listening. Really, when someone says one thing to me, I know I probably need to get to 3 or 4 layers down. The only way for me to get to 3 or 4 layers down is to listen. So I'm not walking up to someone and say, "Hey man, I believe in Jesus, man. Look, let's do like Jesus did." That's not my approach. My approach is whether I'm talking to someone who's a Christian, who's a Buddhism, who's Catholic, who's Protestant, I need to know about you. What are the things that are concerns to you? Right? So,
nous te dit dans current event, nous avons parti dans le programme, nous avons parlé de qui ça a dominé l'actualité. Et après-midi, nous rentrons direct dans le sujet de l'Église pour parler de lui. Et il a été ça passé dans tête pendant parler de religion là. Et nous récemment, numéro 45 a parlé de retourner avec prière dans l'école. Ma continuité dans ce débat ça. Vous devez ça. Qui j'en comprends ça puisque
oui pour moi je tiens même c'est pour
comprendre faut chercher comprendre bagaille c'est comprendre pas comprendre c'est comprendre pas chercher comprendre
OK
c'est comprendre pas essayer comprendre bagaille
this is
ensemble n'a fait dialogue ensemble n'a déchiffré.
It's a personal opinion. I mean, for me, I think, the strength.
You know what? While it's a personal, I'm sorry for cutting you off. While it's a personal opinion, ou qu'on est tout notre travail que nous avons cherché à faire, qui impact que ça nous dit, ça nous fait, il y a sur mon capteur de nous, sur mon capteur de nous, et qui quantité de vie que nous sommes capables de changer, qui nous amène soit dans la direction droite ou dans la direction gauche. Est-ce que tu comprends? Ouais, avant. Ça veut dire, et nous sommes en position côté que what we say may be gospel to some people. What we say, maybe that's the way it should be done.
Yeah.
Parce que des gens comme moi, leur parler, c'est dans vrai à parler, mais des gens leur parler, des gens qui disent, wow, pourquoi ça nous sent qu'il y a une profondeur qui est donc réellement pas se mettre ou analyser, pourquoi ça dit en fait sens.
Ouais.
Est-ce que tu vois?
Ouais.
Ou après, dans quelle direction pour aller avec ça? So, c'est ça qui fait que nous voulons porter un peu de clarification sur ça. On dit, et nous voulons essayer d'être fair to a certain extent, meaning that, we're taking into consideration that il y a une divergence d'opinion, une divergence de monde qui a regardé là, des gens qui sont d'accord, des gens qui ne sont pas d'accord. But at the end of the day, how do we shed light? Qui j'en a porté lumière, qui j'en a jarri lumière sur ça n'a dit pour le apparaître en quelque sorte, pour atteindre l'objectif à chercher à atteindre, which is to bring a community together, which is to get diaspora to be engaged. Right. But how do you get engaged beyond the personal beliefs, the personal opinion, differences of religion, political, how do we bypass all of that for us to work together as a diaspora?
Right.
Est-ce que vous connaissez quelque question?
L'empile,
il est lourd, il est compliqué, il est complexe, but où est importance?
Oui. But that's what makes a community, right? I mean, we're not homogeneous.
Absolutely not.
We're all Haitians, but we different shapes.
That's what diversity is about. Right? That's what diversity is all about.
And all the research has shown, right, diversity is a strength, right? I mean, when the gene pool is homogeneous, they die sooner. It's just nature doesn't like that. You just this one group of people, they're all the same with the same genes. At some point, it dies off, right? It dies off. You need to kind of revive things a little bit, mix it up a bit. So I think there's strength in that, right? And I think part of what you've said is that when you come at this and you come across people who will have diverse opinion, will come from diverse perspective, particularly when you bring in religion, and you touched on the fact that 47. I'm trying to
45.
45. What is it? 45. I was trying to think like Kaden said last week. He wouldn't say his name. The one whose name should not be.
Who shall remain nameless?
Exactly. We live in a country that's founded on certain principles, right? And I think for folks who believe that their children deserve to be in a school where they're taught Christian values, I respect that. And I say, go forth and put them in a Christian school. It's amazing. I mean, yeah, sure. But there are certain fundamental things about respecting one another. The fact that I respect your belief does not mean you can impose it on me. We as humankind, have had enough experiences with one group trying to impose, that everybody needed to be Christian, or everybody needed to be Muslim, or everybody needed to be X, right? And we know what that resulted into. We don't want to go back to that, right? And so America was founded on this ideal that that when you come here, you can come here from any background. And in fact, what's interesting is that the founding fathers of this country, despite the fact that they came from a Christian background, made sure that Christianity was not, and that there was separation, church and state, because and I think that's where education is really important. And this is what I think was Chloe, I don't know who said it before, that we need to make sure that there's education in this. A lot of people don't know about the founding principle of the country, and the reasoning for creating it that way is because these people came from a place where, in fact, it was their religious beliefs that they were being oppressed, right? That's why they left and said, let's go somewhere else. And they said, you know what? Maybe it's not such a good idea if we came from a place where they were oppressing us from religious belief, that we don't start our own nation with our own beliefs and oppressing others, right? It was an amazing thing to do back in those days, right? So I think it might take some time to help someone understand that, but I'm also very comfortable with there's some people who will never get it. Okay. I'm good with that. Okay. I'm not trying to convince everybody, right? But there probably is something that you and I can agree on, right? I may not be able to convince a Jehovah's Witness that they need to take blood or give blood, right? But certainly there are other religious beliefs, folks from religious denomination, who would agree that, oh my God, we need to do this thing because it's life-saving, and it's life-saving for all of us. Pas chercher tout le monde parce que presque fini.
Non, nous obligés fini, Johnny, parce que nous obligés fini, and I'm just trying to get some takeaways.
So Manolia says, so it seems that a major takeaway from today's conversation is how the diaspora can listen better to each other when we come together to address our homeland's challenges. Yes. That is one of the.
You see, I was not even reading the screen. But mentally, and you see, I started talking about takeaways, right?
Yes.
I'm sitting here. I'm and my sister, our spirit is communicating for some reason. It's communicate and you just nail it. You got it. You got it.
We must learn to listen. We must create a space, first of all, to listen, right? We must create a space. Did we just create the space here? It's a beginning.
Would you consider this the space?
This is a little beginning of a space. We got the brother give us a little ding. He says, not a dialogue, so we need to find a way to engage him and others. Because I would love to have gotten his point of view.
But I think we're meeting the standard in a sense by having this interaction. I think the fact that we're reading what's happening on the screen, we're being very mindful today. as to who's interacting with us, reading what's on the screen, reading the feedback, and responding accordingly. I think we're kind of really good standard. I think we are.
So we're striving.
We're striving.
We're
striving. But like I said, we do take criticism, constructively. We're here to inform.
Nice en suggestion, il dit justement, je pense que si l'équipe l'a cherché 2 ou 3 personnages qui disent en position leader dans la communauté, quel que soit côté et puis nous faisons servir tant un panel pour même avec Johnny poser quelques questions sur ce qu'a fait en Haïti ou bien sur le peuple là. C'est bon pour nous. Et merci en pile.
Définitivement, nous réellement apprécier ça. Et c'est comme si tu as l'esprit nous parce que nous faisons discussion ça déjà. Et nous croyons dialogue ça a commencé avec un monde qui a fait expérience en Haïti. Dans le deuxième show numéro 2 MoJo Show, pendant que tu es Mexique.
Absolument.
Où tu fait un show comme ça. Et nous voyons quelques invitations, nous voyons des lettres côté que nous invitons des leaders. Et il arrive que horaire pour chronométrer avec nous. Mais nous avons travaillé sur ça. Mais merci beaucoup nous accepter et critiquer de manière très constructive. Suggestion. Yes.
No, absolutely.
I'm thinking in English. English is a critique.
Yeah, I know.
C'est déjà avec la parler comme ça. Il dit, on peut être très excité, pour peut-être en on a dit ça. Il dit, ok, ça me fait excité. Mais you know,
qui doit exciter mon âme. Alors j'en ferai, elle va faute.
Moi-même, mes amis, va faire exciter.
Va faute.
On dit, on pose Johnny, ça va chercher un problème.
En tout cas, well, I think Manolia really kind of wrapped it all nicely for us.
She certainly did, and we just had meeting of the minds.
Yes,
really.
Yes, and I think just to sort of close on maybe the suggestion that Annie made. The first thing I think we need to create a space for us as a diaspora to have a conversation. That conversation needs to be a guided conversation. That is one in which we are able to expose ourselves. Attention, en anglais.
Oh, okay.
En anglais.
Okay.
Même si c'est en anglais, it's borderline. En tout cas, we expose our inner feelings, our inner emotions,
not our outer,
all inner. Desordem.
From chicken journey.
And really be honest about what do we want as a community. And once we have these basic understanding, once we've put our mask on first, then I think we can begin to have a conversation about how does that translates into putting the mask on for our sisters and brothers who are in Haiti. So I don't know if you have something else to add, but that would be my closing.
I think I'm just amazed at the fact that we have both put our ego, our super ego for that matter, the knowledge that we've acquired, in our academic life, we've put all of that aside to open and embrace other people's opinions, other people's suggestions, so we can make this dialogue better. I think it's a great thing, Johnny, and we're going to continue to do that. And I think this is what's going to continue to guide this show. It's not about us. We're just here as facilitators, but it's not about us. So we definitely invite you, our audience, wherever you are, to send us your suggestion. Please write the feedback. Even beyond the show, take the link, share it with other people. Every time the show comes on, we invite you, encourage you to share it with other platforms. That way we can extend the dialogue to other people and we can have more suggestions. On dit que du choc des idées, jaillit la lumière. So we're looking for the light. and we're doing it together as a community, as a diaspora. Again, on behalf of Johnny, on behalf of the entire staff of the MoJo Show, we want to thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
And stay tuned for our next show where we'll definitely implement your suggestions. We will definitely bring leaders around the table.
And please do send us suggestions continuously.
Absolutely.
You could do it via Facebook here. I think our Gmail is lemojoshow@gmail.com. So LE-MoJo, M-O-J-O, show, S-H-O-W @gmail.com. So either way, just please let us know what you're thinking, what you'd like to see next, and we'll make sure that we bring it on the show.
Assurez qu'on mette MoJo.
Oui, pas Jomo, MoJo.
MoJo.
Ceci.
Si on t'a tenté oublier pour le faire, pour le virer, toujours songer que on veut dire le masculin rapporte sur le féminin. Mais ici on dit les femmes d'abord.
Les femmes d'abord.
Ok, on a dit ça d'abord et puis Johnny.
C'est ça.
MoJo.
Okay, pas Jomo, MoJo. All right. Well, thank you so much, really, for being with us this afternoon. And until next time, we wish you a really great end of the weekend of Sunday. Hopefully you're relaxing wherever you are with your loved ones.
Just a sneak preview before we leave. Next Sunday's show is going to be about love. So the title of our next show is What's Love Got to Do with It? So ladies, okay, we're gonna talk about this. Okay, those of you gentlemen,
all right,
I'm kind of throwing subs.
All right, now.
Who like it and you refuse to put a ring on it, you better make it happen.
Chaleur.
Hey.
All right. Okay, y'all. Have a great Sunday.